Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My brothers and sisters, I hope you're well. I pray Allah has accepted our fast of this 24th night. And the 25th night is about to embark. We're about to embark on 25th night. Subhanallah. Brothers and sisters, time flies and you don't even realize how quickly time has gone. Sometimes I wonder whether we actually stop and think, how have we spent our time? What have we done about our time? Time has come and time has gone and flown us by, and we have been just sitting on our backside doing very little. Allah will ask us on the day of judgment that absolutely unbelievable, unavoidable, the most important question of all questions. You know that question, don't you? All of you have come across 5 before 5. Your youth before your old age. Your health before your sickness. Your wealth before your poverty. Your free time before your preoccupation, and your life before your death. Allah will ask you and I, how did we spend our youth, the most productive of time that we should have spent in His worship? How did we spend our good health before we became old and too sick? How did we spend our wealth before we became poor? How we spent our free time before we became preoccupied? And how we prepared for death while we had a life, how we spent our life on this earth. Not what we did after death, but what we did before we died. How we prepared for it. Brothers and sisters, this is a preoccupation that will occupy not only just the minds of individuals, but the entire humanity. It's not only 1 or 2 people who will be worried about themselves. Everybody. Ya Rabbi, nafsi, nafsi, what's going to happen to me today? Oh Allah, nafsi, nafsi, what's going to happen to me, Ya Allah? Everybody's going to say, what's going to be my case today? My case, what's my case today? Except Allah Azza wa Jal will give His shade, under His shade, to whom He likes. He will give shade to those people who actually did follow His commands and led a life of decent and tranquil, peaceful, virtuous, good human life. Those who didn't, of course, they will have their own ways. And their punishment on the day, I cannot even imagine. I would not want to be in that boat. I pray I don't. I pray that none of us have to experience that. But brothers and sisters, while you are at it, in other words, while you are so busy and preoccupied with your life, perhaps you ought to think about how you can also be ready and preoccupy yourself for the life to come. How you can preoccupy yourself with life to come. Just don't waste your time. Young age only comes once. I am now in my late 40s. Only 10 years ago, I was in my late 30s. 10 years prior to that, I was in my late 20s. And 10 years prior to that, I was in my late teens. And now I am going over to the other side. I'm nearly 50. Very soon I'll be 60. And before you know, I'll be 70. If I'm alive by then, I would have, alhamdulillah, done my bit. But was I ready to face my Lord? Was I ready to answer those questions that has been raised to me? How did you spend your youth? How did you spend your health before your sickness? How did you spend your wealth before poverty? How you spend your time before you become preoccupied? And your life before your wealth? Brothers and sisters, that is the essence of our existence. What happens to us and how we occupy our time is going to be determining our future. I know Sheikh Waddah is going to join us now, inshallah, to recite some Quran. And I'm going to get him straight into the studio, inshallah, to talk to us. But while he is getting ready, remember this: 25 fasts would have come and gone. Would you have been ready? I can see Sheikh Waddah there. Are you ready, Sheikh Waddah? I think he is ready. Let me bring on. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Waddah. Your volume is pretty poor. I can't hear you. I can't hear you at all. No microphone. Okay, come back again. Technology, when it works, it does wonders. When it doesn't work, we all struggle. But alhamdulillah, we're here to make the best of what we have. Inshallah, brothers and sisters. Let's see if we can get Sheikh Waddah to join us again. Assalamu alaikum. You can hear me, right? I can't hear you at all. My volume is up. Let me ask people who are listening to our program. Can people hear Sheikh Waddah? Salam. Somebody is saying from Guinea, mashallah, mashallah. Can you hear me, brothers and sisters? Kabul Chaudhry, can you hear me? I'm from Bangladesh. I'm living in Paris, he says. Can you hear Sheikh Waddah when he recites? I don't think we can hear you. Use your normal phone, Sheikh, the way you normally use your phone. Connect and reconnect. I don't know why the technology today has decided not to work. But if it does, no, Sarah, thank you, Sarah, for your kind assistance. I was thinking, why can we not hear our Imam from the masjid? He is in the masjid. He is in the Abdullah Quilliam Mosque. By the way, did you all support us on our fundraising day? We're going to do another one on the... Suhail Haq says, no, we can't hear him. Thank you, Suhail. Did you all support us? And if you haven't supported us, can you please do us a favor? Support us on the 27th night of Ramadan, when we'll also do another fundraising competition. If we can win it that day, we will also get $20,000 as a gift from the platform itself. So there you are. It's a great chance. Zoom is playing up. Well, we're not using Zoom today. I'm using my broadcasting platform. Salam, I can hear Brother Ajmal, but not the Sheikh Waddah. Salam alaikum, Sheikh Waddah. Can't hear you. Something is going on with you. Oh, Sheikh Waddah, you are muted. So unmute yourself, please. I'm not sure what's happening with Sheikh Waddah. If you can hear me, or you can, you're watching me from Liverpool, Sheikh Waddah, or any of our friends, please tell Sheikh Waddah to unmute his phone. Perhaps we can hear him. I can't unmute him. He has to unmute himself. So please do. I've got people talking to us from Guinea. MashaAllah. Hamba Lo Barry is joining us. Sarah, thank you for the assistance. Suhail Haq, thank you. And Ali Nur Zaman says, Salam, brother, I can hear you, but cannot hear Sheikh Waddah. Brother Waddah, we can't hear you. So if you want to try again, and let's see if we can, inshallah, hear Sheikh Waddah. Let me see if he has messaged me on my phone. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe something is happening at his end. Usually he's very, very prompt. Never happened so far. Out of the 24 days of broadcasting, Sheikh Waddah has only missed one. And today, it looks like his phone is playing up a little bit. Let's have a look. Okay, let's see Sheikh Waddah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Waddah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That's better. I can hear you. I can see the Quran. And I can see people who are helping you, mashallah. What happened?
We had some technical difficulties. Apologize for that, sorry.
No problem. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, we're just working on the Ramadan talent show. We're in the studio at the moment, in the masjid.
Mashallah. Look at that. It's a fully kitted up. That's your doctor who has also become a technician, isn't he?
Yes, and that's his son. He's a technician as well. He's the main technician, Hamza.
Mashallah. Assalamu alaikum, Hamza. Good to see you. Brothers and sisters, that's the Abdullah Quilliam Mosque's new building. This is the Tommy Cooper of Muslim community. Tommy Aka Mumin Khan.
Assalamu alaikum, Masud bhai.
I like your hat.
Thank you. If you like one, I can post one to you. Or
no, thank you. I don't want to wear the Tommy Cooper type. I've got a red hat of my own.
MashaAllah, no, I've seen it. MashaAllah, today we are launching the Ramadan 2020 talent show from Britain's first mosque. Very so good. In about 20 minutes, we'll be on air, giving opportunity to almost everybody. In about an hour's time, we will be giving the opportunity for youngsters, from 0 to 10 years old, and then from 10 to 16 years old, as well as adults, to take part in Quranic recitations, in nasheed, in poetry, in art and calligraphy as well. So if you'd like to ring in through the number, my number, which will go to our Facebook. You will find the number. Oh, shall I give you my number? The number is 0151 260 3986, or the mobile number 07949 921 692. You'll come direct to the studio to me, and we will take the call. And there will be prizes at the end of the competitions at the end of Ramadan. Only about a few more days left, but we are going to have a great time, a great interactive show in seeing who's got the talent in Quranic recitation, poetry, nasheed, art, and calligraphy. So
thank you. Let's get Sheikh Waddah to recite. People are waiting for him to recite. So Sheikh Waddah, Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم حميم والكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه في ليلة مباركة إنا كنا منذرين فيها يفرق كل أمر حكيم أمرا من عندنا إنا كنا مرسلين رحمة من ربك إنه هو السميع العليم رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إن كنتم موقنين لا إله إلا هو يحيي ويميت ربكم ورب آبائكم الأولين بل هم في شك يلعبون فارتقب يوم تأتي السماء بدخان مبين يغشى الناس هذا عذاب أليم ربنا اكشف عنا العذاب إنا مؤمنون أنى لهم الذكرى وقد جاءهم رسول مبين ثم تولوا عنه وقالوا معلم مجنون إنا كاشف العذاب قليلا نطش البطشة الكبرى إنا منتقمون ولقد فتنا قبلهم قوم فرعون وجاءهم رسول كريم أن أدوا إلي عباد الله إني لكم رسول أمين وأن لا تعلوا على الله إني آتيكم بسلطان مبين وإني عذت بربي وربكم أن ترجمون وإن لم تؤمنوا لي فاعتزلون فدعا ربه أن هؤلاء قوم مجرمون فأسر بعبادي ليلا إنكم متبعون واترك البحر رهوا إنهم جند مغرقون كم تركوا من جنات وعيون وزروع ومقام كريم ونعمة كانوا فيها فاكهين كذلك وأورثناها قوما آخرين فما بكت عليهم السماء والأرض وما كنا منظرين صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh Waddah. That was very beautiful, mashallah, mashallah. Surah Dukhan, right?
Surah Al-Dukhan, yeah, until ayat 30, inshallah. From the
From the
beginning
beginning of Surah Dukhan until the ayah of 30.
Na'am, inshallah.
How does it feel you to read Surah Dukhan? Surah of the smoke.
SubhanAllah. It's one of the, Surah Al-Dukhan, it just reminds you of Al-Akhirah, the day of judgment. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَارْتَقِبْ يَوْمَ تَأْتِي السَّمَاءُ بِدُخَانٍ مُبِينٍ. It's like saying, watch out on that day when you see the dukhan, the smoke, that'll be covering the whole earth. هذا عذاب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that the adab is then will come, the real adab will come down where everyone won't even have no iman. Khalas, it'll be time's up for everyone who has not even a dharra of iman, subhanallah. So inshallah, we live before that day, inshallah, we always have the yaqeen and the iman, inshallah, and the sabr to carry on with our ibadah during Ramadan or after Ramadan.
Inshallah, inshallah, Allah make it possible. Just give us a span view of the internal room of the masjid. A lot of people want to see what it looks like. Currently, brothers and sisters, of course, the masjid is empty, and they've set up a small studio to entertain our community of people from all over, mashallah. So currently, they're broadcasting Taraweeh from there. They're broadcasting live program from there, and today they will have a talent show at some stage. That's Brother Mumin, who is the star of the show. He's going to be showing all of his talents today. This is the masjid. So that's the mihrab. That's where the Imam would stand. That's the ceiling, as you can see. That's where the Imam would stand. This has been a gift from Allah, that this building came available, and it's got enough space to not only accommodate our needs, but for generations to come. All we need, you two brothers and sisters, is help us to restore this masjid to its original glory. It will take a bit of our time, but can be done very soon, inshallah. I have greatest honor and privilege that you can all be watching this with me. Can you imagine this would become the hub of our activities as soon as we're ready? But next door is going to be the next three buildings are going to be the buildings which would be restored to the historic site. That's the grand entrance to the main hall. Very beautiful. Brother Mumin is leading the way. Yeah. And you also will see the original tiles of the Victorian building. This is not the Abdullah Quilliam Mosque, but this is the Victorian building that has been made available to us next door to the masjid. Now we're using it, and we've been using it for nearly over a year on lease. But the council wants to sell it to us, and we're trying to raise the money to buy this building. A beautiful building. Alhamdulillah. Amazing. Look at that. Grand staircase leads you from downstairs to the main hall. I don't need to see anything else. Just don't fall off the balcony. And you can see all the way down to the bottom, mashallah. Wonderful. Thank you. Let's get back to the studio. For the moment, thank you. And
thank you very much. I would like everyone to, this is the building that we want to purchase immediately. So I would request all brothers and sisters to donate generously, especially in this month of Ramadan, where you get, 7 times more rewards for giving it. So make the intention and to give the sadaqah, the donation to the masjid. Let us purchase it together. If we lose this opportunity, this building goes out of our hand, we will lose an enormous opportunity for the Muslim community here in Liverpool, because the Britain's first mosque only takes about 90 people in the main hall, but this one will take up to 5,000 people. It's over 50,000 square foot. So please, brothers and sisters, dip into your pocket, and for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, please come forward and donate as much as you can.
Thank you. Thank you, Imam Waddah. That's amazing. Wa alaikum assalam. See you later. That's really beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to move out of that studio and come back to, and we're going to join our dear brother Yahya, I think, who is somewhere in Warwick. Is that correct?
Warwick? Come on, I'm in Yorkshire. I keep telling you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. I was just about to pop out for a walk, and I got your reminder that I need to do a poem. So my apologies for my outdoor appearance today.
You look very Yorkshire-like.
So I'm going to have to go in a minute after this poem and get a bit of a walk in before the sun goes down.
Inshallah. So let's hear your poem then. Bismillah.
Okay, so bowing to public pressure and the popularity of the Ertugrul series. This is a poem that Sheikh Abdullah Quilliam published in 1916 called The Coming of Ertugrul. And it refers to a time when Ertugrul is said to have come to the salvation of the Seljuk Sultan of Rum, Alauddin Qayqubad, and came to his assistance. And the Sultan was so pleased with this that he granted him Angora, the mountainous region of Angora, now Ankara, and which out of which eventually emerged the Ottoman Empire, and his son Osman was the first of the dynasty. So it's a long poem. So what I've done is I've only going to read the second half of the poem. When Ertugrul, right-hearted man, and all his men drew nigh, they saw the fray, the shouts they heard, beheld the desperate plight. Alauddin and his brave men outnumbered in the fight. Then outspake the right-hearted man, God's prophet said of old, to aid the weak a duty is. So Muslims, now be bold, and follow me into the fray, succor that little band, which 'gainst exceeding powerful odds so gallantly doth stand. His warriors then did grasp their spears, and to their horse gave rein, and on the foe they rushed like wind, yea, like a hurricane. The Mongols felt their spears' keen point, which soon was stained red, as Ertugrul and his brave men like whirlwind on them sped. They reel, they faint, their ranks give way, they turn their backs and flee, as doth a ship in sorry plight before a raging sea. Amazed the Seljuk Sultan stands to see the havoc wrought upon his foes by heroes bold, the men by heaven brought. The blows they smite, the deeds they do, upon him he doth gaze, and more he looks and more he sees, the greater his amaze. Can they be men or angels they, like those on Badr's field, who fought for Islam's heroes there and made the Kafirs yield? When lo, a cry, Allahu Akbar, that ever welcome note, so loud and clear and sonorous, came from the Ansar's throat. No one but Muslim gives that cry, it is the Azan call. Praise be to God, they are our friends, for they are Muslims all. What matters it from whence they come, from climates hot or cold, from north or south, from east or west, they are in Islam's fold. So spake Icona's Sultan, then to Ertugrul he went, Alhamdulillah, praise to God, who thee to us hath sent. Ask what ye may, brother and friend, I grant it now to thee, for well I know that Allah hath this day sent thou to me. Upon the field that they had won, Anconia's Sultan then did grant the land of Angora upon those gallant men. 'Twas thus that the right-hearted man so to Angora came. The father he of Osman bold, eternal be his fame. Osmanlis all, where'er ye be, as long as time remain, remember ye brave Ertugrul upon Angora's plain, and rest assured when in distress, no matter how or where, Allah will ever hear thy cry and ever heed thy prayer.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. And this is just part of the poem.
Yeah, it's the second half of the poem.
No, really. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. And how long would it take to read the whole poem?
Well, you know, we've got a 10-minute snippet here, so I'm trying to save your readers, but inshallah, the rest of it will appear in the anthology. So
it's fantastic, very good. Well, Abdullah Quilliam was not just a genius; it's amazing. It's genius and a half.
He's a versatile mind. You know, he was nationally recognized as a geologist.
Wow.
He was a very accomplished defense lawyer, as you know. He took on some very big cases. He spoke several languages, and you know, was an accomplished scholar of religion. You know, he had many. He was also a very committed folklorist, as well as interested in the history of the Isle of Man and the language and so on. He was a very.
Didn't he have a building? Didn't he have a building in Isle of Man for that?
He had a second home. He had a second home. He had two second homes, what, you know, in succession, not at the same time. And there's a picture of it in Ron's book, Woodland Towers.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. So, you know, and sometimes he would give over his home to the visiting dignitaries, you know, that would visit to Liverpool. So he would allow them to, whether it was Ottoman dignitaries or Persian princes or whoever, he would offer his home and Onkan up to them so they could have a holiday or honeymoon rest or whatever. As he marry somebody important off, he'd send them off to Onkan for a holiday.
Is this building still available? We could go for honeymoon ourselves.
I've never seen it. I don't know who owns it now. I think it's still in private hands. But you know.
That's amazing. I'm just so enthralled by his story. What a story to unpack. It would be a good idea to dramatize his life in a film format. Yeah,
we sent through the offices of Ibrahim Hewitt. We sent a copy of Ron's book to David Morrissey, the actor, who's a Scouser himself, fine actor, and you know, but we didn't hear back from him. He runs his own production company, and we were hoping that he might be tempted to. But I think we probably have to get it worked up into a decent screenplay. I think that will be the way to get it.
And often you can get it done if you have the money to be able to then make it into a program. But if you go with money, you will find fantastic producers, filmmakers out there who could make it for you.
Yeah, I think you need a good script first. Like with anything, you know, you need to I think sell a script, not just an idea. I think handing somebody an academic book is probably not quite right. I think you need to sell a proper idea, realized in a script.
Maybe an investment in a script writer would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think so. But it has to be a passion project as well. So I'm happy to guide anybody who wants to go through the process of writing a script. Make sure that it reflects, you know, the actual story as far as is possible, with dramatic license, of course. But you know, I think there's so much color there already. You wouldn't need to embellish too much. So.
Absolutely spot on. Thank you, brother Yahya, for that amazing insight, and of course your poem that you read. Thank you. Have a fantastic walk wherever you're going, and don't forget to walk in the southern hemisphere where we have sun, bright, a shiny day, but no mountains.
Alhamdulillah. It's all good, brother. We all give thanks for what we have. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That's our dear brother Yahya. I'm not very far away from inviting Henrietta and Dr. Ayesha Razvi. We've got two amazing ladies who are waiting to join us. Dr. Ayesha will have to wait for a few minutes because scheduled time for Dr. Ayesha to be with us, it's about in about 10 minutes. But Henrietta, who is usually with us at about 7:30, is already in the room and she can hear us. And I think she is probably ready waiting. Let's talk to her. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
I can hear you now. How are you doing?
I'm okay, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Excellent, alhamdulillah. I can't complain, though I'm very tired today.
Are you?
My body is saying you've had a grueling schedule every day in the month of Ramadan. It's time to slow down. But I'm telling my body, wait 5 more days and then it'll be done.
7 more likely.
No, it's 24th tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we still have 6 or 7 days to fast.
24 is today. It's already
tomorrow
done.
Tomorrow is 25th fast. So that means until Friday, definitely there is fast. And then after that, Allah will decide our fate.
Inshallah, inshallah. Okay. Well, what is the fate of your food today? What have you cooked? What are you making?
The fate of my food today, or fate of the kitchen today, is it's mostly vegetables. I'm really happy because I'm actually ordering vegetables fresh once a week, and they are very clever. They drop it at night on Saturday night. So Sunday morning, when I wake up, I find a whole box of fresh vegetables.
Did they do that yesterday?
Sorry?
Did they drop it off last night?
They did, and I picked it up this morning, and it's really, I mean, I love the company because what they do is they pick up the leftover vegetables that otherwise it's not leftover, but it would have gone to the bin because these are kind of wonky vegetables that supermarkets would throw away. So they two people, two friends, they set up a business running this as a ethical business. So they gather all the leftover and otherwise thrown out vegetables, and they deliver it to your door. And it's not very expensive. It's not organic vegetable, but it's just lovely to have a really good variety. And the funny thing is, you never know what you get. So it's really great. Today we got courgette, aubergine. We've got some fresh spinach. We've got some kale and salad leaves. So and asparagus. So I used a few of these things, and I have made a asparagus quiche, which is here.
It looks
Can you see?
Yes, very nice.
And I also made a salad from the leaves that they have sent us. And I did this because yesterday we had meat. For the last 2 days we had meat, and whatever leftover we have from the meat, I just wanted to supplement with some vegetables. So we will have I have a fruit platter with lots of watermelon, strawberries, and grapes. And I will have also dessert, which is the New York cheesecake. And I actually made a very lovely raspberry coulis from fresh raspberries and a bit of raspberry jam, which I cooked together. And it's runny, so we can just drizzle it over the cheesecake, which is very exciting.
Obviously not for me, cheesecake.
Not for you, but we also have apple juice, which we don't really do juice in the house very much, but Ramadan is different, so the kids will enjoy a bit of juice. What else? Oh, we have some maftool, which is the Palestinian, the giant couscous salad, which we will mix with the meaty, saucy, tahini, cooked cauliflower and broccoli. So that's going to be our dinner tonight.
Sounds like a plan, mashallah. Forget about losing weight. At this rate, we'll be putting on weight.
No, I think, obviously there is a certain age after which you don't really lose anything, but it's good for the system. I feel lighter, definitely feel lighter after Ramadan. And, to be honest, I would be very happy to go on 1 meal a day, excuse me, instead of having 2 cooked meals and, having heavy foods in between. Actually, I wouldn't mind just getting something. My challenge is always that I graze a lot, so I like eating, but I think it's just substituting maybe 1 or 2 unhealthy snacks with something that is more healthy. So it's something that keeps me going because I do need energy, but I don't need to have 2 big meals. I find actually that I already before Ramadan I found it very taxing when it's 2 meals, and especially when the kids were at home before, after the lockdown, before the whole thing just started, being at home. Even then, I just found it too difficult to I didn't feel light. I didn't feel good about eating so much. So it's about just monitoring what we eat and how we substitute in between meals, and bit of green and salads and halloumi. These things are really good for the body, so that's not a problem.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, let's move away from food because it's going to make us even more hungry. It's been a tough day today, toughest one for me so far in the month of Ramadan. Dr. Ayesha Razvi, please bear with us. We will be with you in the next 5 minutes or so. So you just relax and do whatever you're doing. If you can hear me, please stay with us, inshallah. We're going to talk to Henrietta, who's going to tell us about the state of her brain at the moment. She talked about her kitchen, got us all hungry. Now, let's hear about your thoughts.
Well, yesterday you posed a challenge for me to look into fitra and how to nurture fitra in as I'm reading Imam Ghazali's The Alchemy of Happiness. So I did some reading around it, and of course, Allah has His mysterious ways, because it's actually the next chapter of the book that I started already presenting in the last few days. So the fitra is, as we know, the definition of fitra is what is born with us is our natural disposition, and what we take from our parents and from our environment is an addition to our fitra. That's what I thought. And I think it is the basic definition. But of course, Imam Ghazali has another amazing way of actually showing us what fitra is. So there are so many layers to this, but I wanted to bring a couple of elements, which I think is very, very important. So according to The Alchemy of Happiness, at the time of conception, the human body was completed with what is known as the infusion of the divine spirit. And it's in the Quran in Surah 15, Ayah 29, which says, I breathed into him of my spirit. And out of this union of body and spirit or breath was born the soul, which inclines downwards towards the body, and the spiritual heart, which inclines upwards towards the infused spirit or breath. So these are the four aspects of our self, actually, because it consists of body, spirit, which is the divine spirit, the soul, and the spiritual heart that make up this human self. So the really interesting part about this is that we actually think that when God breathes into us his spirit, it's all about the goodness, it's all about the perfection, it's all about the things we have to aspire to be, and it is part of it. However, there's also an animal soul which becomes part of us when we are born, and I think this is really when it becomes very interesting, because as we bring up children and as we look at young human beings, we realize that there are two types of this animal soul or this animal spirit, and this is what Imam Ghazali calls it's an irrational system. So one side of it, which is the aspect of the animal soul to do with attraction to pleasure, including food, wealth, fame, all those things, he calls it shahwat. And the other aspect of it, which is the more to do with emotions and our emotional makeup, he calls it ghadab, which comes from the word anger. Now, as I said, it's an irrational, both of them are irrational systems, and as with any irrational system, we can correct them, we can set them right with our conscious mind and with our knowledge and our cognitive abilities. So this is what we talked about in the first few days of Ramadan when I was reading the book of knowledge. So that what was really interesting for me is to actually have a very clear picture that it's not about us being perfect, nowhere near that. It's actually real self-knowledge comes to the rescue when we truly understand our appetites for things, and it could be anything, and our emotional recklessness, which is about our soul. And the reason why because I've studied psychology, so I know that ghadab or anger is actually what is referring to is not the actual anger only what we express, but that's the irritation of the soul, that's that recklessness of the soul which is not at peace. This is not qalb salim, it's the opposite, when we are continuously lashing out, or we are angry, or we are doing things which are coming from the restlessness of the soul. So what is Imam Ghazali's way of teaching is, of course, he is just so methodical and so clever in giving us step-by-step guides of how to do it. But before I go there, I wanted to read out something that is really, really important for us to think about. So he's kind of looking at the animal soul, and this is the description he gives. The similitude of anger is that of a hunting dog. And he's talking about the anger of the soul, which is part of the animal soul. Is that of a hunting dog. The similitude of the carnal appetite is that of a horse. And the similitude of reason is that of a rider. A horse is sometimes refractory and sometimes obedient and trained. A dog is sometimes taught and sometimes it reverts to its own nature. Until the one is taught and the other trained, there is no hope for the riders obtaining any game. Indeed, there is the fear that the will be killed and the dog may attack him, or that the horse may throw him to the ground. And I think this is just a perfect metaphor for what happens to our reasoning mind and what happens to our shahwat, which is to do with attraction to pleasure, and what happens to our ghadab, which is to do with our emotional recklessness. Because as it shows, the carnal appetite, the shahwat, is like a horse. Sometimes it can be trained in, which is what we do when we fast, which is what we do when we pray. Certain aspects of ibadat is actually training the horse. And the dog, which is our emotional, the recklessness of the soul, is that the dog can also be sometimes taught, and we can actually learn and understand where the recklessness of our soul comes. And I just remembered one episode in our life when our daughter was about 5, and she went through a quite turbulent time, and we don't know why. She was about 5.5, and we met some friends, and they asked us, why is she so angry? What is this anger? I've never seen this before in her. And I think I don't necessarily believe in terrible twos, because I don't think that I'm not a believer of terrible two. I think every child is, because 2 is the age when they start developing a will, 2 or 3 years old, when they start developing the understanding that I can say no to my mother, which means she will listen or she will not. And this is where they start negotiating boundaries. But then there's another couple of times in our life when we go through this anger cycle, and that's purely an indication that our soul hasn't been connected to our intellect. So we are not understanding our emotions. We are acting out from that recklessness. So I think I'm going to stop here, because it's quite a lot, but it's something very simple but very, very effective, and to think about that the appetites and the soul both need to be trained. So the appetite part of our animal soul and the emotional part of our animal soul both have wonderful structures to be trained. Therefore, the rider in us, the rider who is the rational, the person who's standing istiqamah, that's the rider who can make decisions and who is always in alignment with God's will, so that the horse or the dog is not going to attack us. And as a rider, we are not going to be attacked or beaten by the dog or being thrown down from the back of the horse.
Thank you. Lovely. Very beautifully put. And I don't want to pick any holes in it, except I want to say that I want to agree with everything. Wonderfully done.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, cool.
We'll continue tomorrow. I think I will be going into what it means for us to know ourselves, because this is when we really start developing these strategies for our animal soul.
Thank you very much for that. As you can imagine, I have to manage 2-3 screens at the same time, so I'm being distracted for a second. But let me say thank you for that amazing reminder. We'll see you tomorrow.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. That's Henrietta, ladies and gentlemen. Very grateful to her for bringing up the Al-Ghazali's teaching of alchemy of happiness back to life for all of us. We're now very grateful to the Dr. Ayesha Razvi, who has joined us very kindly all the way from, I don't know where you are from, but I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself a bit more, if you don't mind, formally. Doctor, can I, just one second, let me just see if I can, there you are, that's it. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I was getting the wrong place. I would place you in the wrong space. Are you a GP or are you a doctor in hospital?
No, I'm a GP.
Welcome, Dr. Ayesha Razvi. Firstly, Salaam Alaikum, and how are you?
Walaikum salam. I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. And are you based in up north somewhere? Which area would you be in?
So I'm born and raised in Liverpool, really. So,
oh, the Scouser, then we're talking to, mashallah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Very good, very good. Don't want to obviously move away from the discussion that we will be having with you, but just tell us about some of your thoughts about Ramadan, about your work. You guys are doing a fantastic job in keeping us all safe, alhamdulillah. We're so grateful and indebted to doctors and nurses and frontline staff. So we're, of course, already soft and weak in our knees when it comes to doctors and nurses. But it would be good to hear what's going on a bit more.
At the moment, from the way things are at the moment, alhamdulillah, because, well, unfortunately, obviously the COVID situation is bringing a lot of hospital doctors. They're working a lot on the front line, whereas with GPs at the moment, it is going fairly quiet in that we're all working from home, and when we need to see the patient, then we go to the patient, or we have to do home visits, in certain situations. So in that, we're wearing our protective equipment, and we're doing the visits, etc. So working, it's very quiet because people are scared to come to the GP practice, and people, I think, are scared to even go to hospitals unless they really need to. So in that situation, you know, it's going pretty smooth, alhamdulillah, and Ramadan has gone fairly well as well.
Must be very difficult to wear your protective gown, plus fast in the month of Ramadan, plus have to work. Are you working at the front line in the hospital, or are you quite confined to your GP surgery role, whether it is in the surgery or outside?
No, in general practice, we're all confined to within the practice.
Okay, so that's a bit of a relief as well when it is such a testing time. And have you had any very difficult cases that you have to dealt with, which is to do with COVID-19? And how are you finding our community's general response to it?
I think, alhamdulillah, our communities have done extremely well, to be honest. From what I can see, especially on social media, lots of people doing virtual iftars. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes. We're familiar with that.
Yeah. So you know, it's maintaining the community spirit, and still, because obviously as Muslims and during Ramadan, this is the time that we most enjoy, you know, meeting each other, of giving each other iftars, having iftar parties. You know, even for Eid, it's going to be a very different Eid this year compared to every year that has gone past. And from what people are doing with iftars, you know, we give iftars just from outside the door. I've had my neighbors leaving iftar outside my door. So the community spirit is still there, even though it's virtual. It's still there, and we normally used to have Ramadan classes every day from 12 to 1. And that was in a sister section, you know, in a section where in a mosque, basically. And all of that is continuous online now. So I think our community has done extremely well in keeping up the motivation, keeping up the iman.
Considering the challenges that we're facing with all the isolation, etc., especially the elderly. Okay, back to the question that I have for you. So the elderly have dominated some of our news headline lately. Yesterday, one of my friend's wife died. She was elderly, but not very elderly. She was just over 60. She has had some ongoing dialysis issues, but then contracted COVID-19 and passed away. And also we've heard how in care homes, the death rate has been very, very high. What can we do to minimize the death or the potential for infection amongst our elderly, especially elderly who are living with us?
So first of all, COVID-19 does affect everyone. It's not just elderly, but obviously our elderly are the most vulnerable. And children, up until now, it was thought that it didn't really affect children, but children are the biggest carriers of this virus. And, you know, we all have grandparents and we all have parents who are elderly living with us. And keeping children away or maintaining that social distance is really important. For our communities, you know, if we're in a situation where our elderly parents aren't living with us, it's a good idea to, you know, reduce the amount of visits, really maintain the visits, but you can maintain it from a 2-meter distance, you know, not entering the house. You really want to prevent the virus from getting into the house. So again, you know, if you're bringing shopping over, whoever is taking the shopping from the door, I've heard this, and we try to implement this in our house as well. So empty all the shopping bags, put disinfectant spray all over it, and then, you know, wash your fruits, wash your vegetables, wash your milk bottles before you put them in the fridge. All of these things are really important. And maintaining
very practical things that you are suggesting that we should be very used to most of the time.
Yeah.
And we just need to make it a habit now, and a habit that would help not just us, but our elderly to stay safe and hopefully not get the infection.
Yeah. what you mentioned about care homes, you know, we have a lot of care homes in our practice, and most care homes, they stopped allowing visitors at all. And it's a very sad, it's a very unfortunate situation, and it's a very sad situation, because if say, you know, people have elderly patients or elderly relatives, sorry, who pass away, then they're not allowed to see their relative, and they're not allowed to visit during their time of illness. A few of the care homes where I've worked, which I haven't in my practice, they've allowed visitors to come in as long as they're wearing protective equipment as well.
Wow. Okay. Well, it is, of course, it's a worry, it's a concern. We have to do our best to keep ourselves protected. I understand all of that, and alhamdulillah, people are doing a good job. Our elderly are the most precious, especially our parents. I haven't seen my mother properly for a long time. I've not been able to. Well, I mean, there has been an exception in between.
Yeah.
When my mother's house next door to our house, a flat caught fire in the middle of Ramadan, in the middle of the night. So I had to rush over to help them, and then I broke all the social distancing rule because of the emergency. I had to go inside. So apart from that occasion, I haven't seen my mother properly. So it's been hard for everybody. And I'm certain it's harder for people who have got elderly who are not well.
Yes. And they're the most at risk, really. So you want to prevent it. It's hard doing this social distancing, but you know that you're doing this for a reason, and the reason is you're doing it out of love, and you're doing it to protect them. So in that respect, it's, you know, the best thing that you're doing for them, really.
That's absolutely spot on. I think it's very wise thing to do as well. Okay, last question, or not last question, but last question on that topic. Do you think the social distancing is more important than wearing mask, or should we have to do both, wear a mask as well as have social distancing and wear gloves?
I think social distancing is very important. I also think wearing a mask is quite important. I think sometimes it's not practical. It's not practically possible, and people are quite, people forget to wear it. Like I've just been to the supermarket. Unfortunately, I forgot to wear my mask, and I saw, lots of people wearing it. But maintaining social distance is very important, because 2 meters, if someone sneezes, if someone coughs, the droplets will fall in the air. And if you have maintained your 2 meter distance, then that's good. But wearing a mask on top of that, you have that extra protection. But it's not just you wearing the mask. It's the other person who should also be wearing the mask. And if you're wearing the mask and the other person isn't wearing a mask, at least you're protected. But if both of you are wearing a mask, you have a better chance of protection.
So it's for more for protecting others from your own self, really.
Yes.
Or you're protecting yourself from the others, because the droplets that are coming out of our mouth when we're speaking isn't really being prevented by the mask, is it? It's not being stopped.
So then we can get into the category of different types of masks, really. So most people have.
So for example, I'll show you one. The one I have here is the typical one. Apparently, this one is not worth the penny it's written on.
Sorry, I can't see your screen. I can only see my.
Let me show you the screen. Just give me 1 second. This is the mask I have on my table. This is not the one that's worth the penny on its. It's been made from flimsy. It's not. Is it? I'm asking you.
It's a surgical mask. It's the normal, regular surgical mask. What we normally advise is for the general public to wear. It's something is better than nothing.
I see.
So it is still important. You are basically, with the surgical mask, you are basically preventing, if you're carrying the virus, you're preventing other people from catching it. The special masks called FFP3 masks and N95 masks, and these will prevent you from getting something if the other person has those droplet infection, has COVID-19 or any other virus. But the importance is the seal. You need to have a good seal around the nose, the chin area. All of that is really important.
I know we're talking more about safety today, but it's important that we have discussed this. And what do you say about the beard? Does the beard prevent it from the proper seal? So my beard is not that big, but there are bigger beards. Is there a problem with beard or mustache?
Yes, unfortunately. So when most doctors who are working in COVID-19 environments, so actually who are in the ward, and they've been given FFP3 masks, so to make sure that the seal is there, they've all been asked to shave their beards. So it does.
Oh, doctors have been asked to shave their beards, even if it's a small beard like mine.
I think you might just get away with it.
Wow. So, but what about if you've got the visor on, the protective? You don't have to do anything to your beard. You just wear your visor.
So the main thing is, so the visor is a covering on top. However, there's big gaps on the side.
That's right. Yes.
And there's gaps by the neck, so that the virus can still get into your respiratory tract.
Wow, that's very scary. I didn't realize. Yeah. I didn't realize how scary it is, because if it gets into your respiratory tract, especially if you're a frontline staff, and as a doctor, you have to save yourself and save others.
Yeah,
so it is. And did your colleagues shave their beard, or did they rebel, or did they protest against it?
No. So whoever, my brother-in-law, he's an anaesthetist. My husband, he had to work in the COVID ward, so they all had to shave their beards.
Wow, that's a huge sacrifice for some people.
Yeah.
But it is a sacrifice to save life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let me ask you a final question about medicine itself. We've been talking about safety because you're a doctor, you're at the front line, you know more about it than us ordinary folk who have no knowledge. I just blubber on sometimes. So I get that corrected by people like you. Thank you for that. Final question. If somebody has got a long-term condition in life, for example, if they fast, their body would be adversely affected. We know they don't have to fast. In Islam, there is an exemption given. What are the possible side effects, negative side effects of fasting on a person with a long-term condition? Just briefly, if you could mention, and you can even be specific with the condition as an example, and tell us what could happen to them if they fast.
So, if someone has, if they have diabetes and who are severely uncontrolled diabetics, who have been told by their doctors that they shouldn't fast because of various reasons, and they still carry on fasting and they protest against it, they can fall into they can get really severe hypoglycemic attacks. They can go into coma. So a hypoglycemic attack is basically when your sugar becomes extremely low, that you can't do your normal day-to-day functions. So that person can also go into a coma. So in those situations, it's very important that they seek medical advice and they don't fast. Other situations are, if someone has if someone is going into something acute, so someone's having a heart attack, for example, they shouldn't be fasting. And if they have suffered from a heart attack within the last 6 weeks, then it's important that they don't fast as well, because they're making their body, their heart is already quite weak, and you'll be ending up making it even more weak. So that's why Allah is merciful, and in these situations, it's important that we don't fast, and we acknowledge that Allah has given us these leeways.
Thank you. That's a very good point you've raised. So if you've got a weak heart already, by fasting, you could be compromising your heart. Similarly, diabetes, similarly, other illnesses that are a lifelong condition. And if you fast, it could affect you. The best thing, brothers and sisters, is to talk to your GP. We've got Dr. Ayesha Razvi there, who is a Muslim doctor, is familiar with the faith, very familiar with medicine, of course. That's why she's a doctor. Alhamdulillah, you would be happy to know that more than 40% of our NHS has BME doctors and nurses, and large number of them are Muslims. So most of them understand. And if they don't understand, they have somebody that they know who understands. So it's not a difficult thing. Most important, they don't suffer. And like Sister Dr. Ayesha Razvi said, Allah has given you a dispensation, a gift from Him. Don't reject it. Pay fidya if it's a condition. Remember, fidya is you pay one fast equal to feeding somebody for a day. So if you miss one fast, you pay somebody maybe, how much would it be to feed somebody for a day? I say £10, maybe £1 or £10 would be enough per fast. So if it's missing 30 fasts, give £300. But be reasonable what you're doing and be reasonable with your body. Now, I want to give you a special thanks on behalf of Abdullah Quilliam Mosque, Dr. Ayesha Razvi, because you and your families have been extremely, extremely kind and generous supporters of our mosque. And I know because of your support, we have been able to do so much. And we are on the verge of purchasing the building next door, as you know, with a huge expansion of services from 90 people prayer space in the existing mosque to a 5,000 capacity almost, and 50,000 square feet of space. And this opportunity will never come back to us. So we'll, of course, be calling on your door very soon, but we know you've already been very supportive. Please make dua for us.
Please
and
make
dua for you.
Jazakallah khair.
Please give our salams to your family and our gratitude, our thanks.
Jazakallah khair.
All right, then, Dr. Ayesha, we'll see you again very soon. I'm going to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to Dr. Ayesha Razvi for her wonderful time and contribution. Salam wa rahmatullah. There you go, Dr. Ayesha Razvi was there. Fantastic. What a great doctor there. Ladies and gentlemen, we've run out of time. I'm going to finish here by inviting you to join us and giving us your undivided attention to Abdullah Quilliam Mosque and the support of this mosque. Please donate generously. Help us buy the building next door. We need to raise a lot of money. The Ramadan's target was only £100,000. Can we raise all of that in the month of Ramadan? I think if you really dig deep into your pockets, we can. I'm going to leave that in your good hands. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.